The Chevy Suburban. This thing is loved by the United States Secret Service, the cartel, and the baddest and most dangerous group of them all, moms. The Suburban name has been around since 1935, making it the longest continuously used nameplate in production. And since then, it's gotten bigger and bigger, big enough to bring all of suburbia with you. My name is Omar, and I'm driving through the suburbs in a 2023 Chevy Suburban High Country. Alright, so the new Suburban. This thing is crazy big. I recently tested the Tahoe and this thing is significantly bigger. This is the 12th generation of the Bourbon, which came out in 2021, and you can get it in like 6 different trims. The one I'm driving here is the most expensive of them all, the High Country. It's meant to be the most luxurious trim with a bunch of exclusive touches. But before we get into all that and how this drives, let's talk about the difference in practicality that this offers versus the Tahoe, because that's what 99% of you actually care about. All right, so let's kick off the practicality side of things by checking out the second row. Hop in the second row and you have a total of 42 inches of legroom, which is actually the same as the Tahoe. I'm about 6 foot tall. That is my seating position. As you can see, I've got a good amount of room back here. Now the High Country here gets heated second row seats, but you can't get ventilated seats back here, which I think is a big miss. My test model also comes with a rear entertainment system for around $2,000, and that will give you access to Hulu, YouTube, oh look, it's me, hit that subscribe button right now, and YouTube Kids so they can watch CoComelon. Now to access the third row, you just pull this latch right here twice, and the second row folds down and lifts up, allowing you to get inside the third row. Now once you get back here in the third row, you're working with 36.7 inches of legroom, which is about 2 inches more than the Tahoe. This seat is all the way back, this seat is all the way front. Still a ton of room. So if you thought the Tahoe was spacious, this really takes it to the next level. I will say though, it's a bit dark and lonesome back here. You don't get an extra sunroof or anything like that. Some 3-row SUVs will actually give you a sunroof in the back, but not here on the Suburban. Now let's check out the cargo capacity, because this is where I think it makes the most sense to upgrade from the Tahoe to the Suburban. Once you get it open, you're working with a massive 41.5 cubic feet behind the third row, which is 16 more than the Tahoe, 93.8 cubic feet behind the second row, which is 21 more than the Tahoe, and maxes out at a massive 144.7 cubic feet, which is 22 more than Tahoe. Yeah, this is a ton of room. Yeah, the extra 2 inches in the third row is cool, but I don't think that's a big reason to upgrade to the Suburban. But this extra cargo space definitely makes a huge difference. Of course, you have an automatic folding third row, so you can fold and unfold them from right back here using these buttons. The second row, however, is just a power release, so you can fold them, but you can't put them back up from here. Now, one of my favorite things that GM has been doing on their big SUVs is allowing the driver to fold and unfold the third row seats right from the front by using these 2 buttons located here. That is super convenient, so you don't have to walk around the back to do it. You can just do it right here from the driver's seat. Now, before we keep going, let's check out some daily ownership highlights that I'll have to show all of you. You have a total of 6 real cup holders. You have some bottle holders in the doors, but you have 2 cup holders in the front, and then you have 2 cup holders right here in the center console, and 1 cup holder each in the third row. Here are the keys to the Bourbon High Country. No High Country logo, just a Chevy logo. You can pop open just the glass using the keys, or you can pop open the whole cargo area, the tailgate. Door close sound from the outside, and the inside, solid. Charging game-wise, in the front you have a USB-C and A port and a wireless charger right there. Those sitting in the back have 2 USB-C ports and a household outlet. And then you have 2 USB-C ports in the third row on each side. And of course, let's do an indicator and horn sound test. Indicator first. Same old GM indicator that keeps skipping. Now for the horn sound. Oh yeah, solid. So yeah, in my opinion, if you're someone that doesn't need a lot of cargo space or the extra 2 inches of legroom in the third row, I'd just stick with the Tahoe. That said, let's keep talking about this interior, more specifically the front seat. As the driver and the front passenger, you'll find the front to be extremely pleasant. The seats are super comfortable. The High Country trim gets heated and cooled front seats as standard. And you can actually heat just your back and your booty at the same time, but when it comes to cooling, you have to do your back and the booty all together. Now, if you want a heated steering wheel on the new Chevy Suburban, it's optional on all trims except the Premier and the High Country, where it's standard. That said, one of my favorite features on the new Tahoe and the Suburban is the power sliding center console. Using this button right up here, you can slide this front center console forward and backward a total of 10 inches. Not sure what this is for really, but to me, I just use it to deliver drinks to the second row, but you do have a little drawer right here in the front to hide valuables. Or maybe to hide some other things from the cops, but I guess they know that now since I pointed it out, so I'm sorry. Now, oddly enough, the top of the line Suburban and Tahoe High Country trims don't get massaging front seats, which I think is a pretty big miss since in an Escalade for around this price tag of over $90,000, you'll get front massaging seats. But overall, the quality in here is really nice. Definitely a huge step above the previous generation of big GM SUVs. That said, let's talk about the tech side of things. For the 2022 model year, GM added a new Google-based infotainment system, so you get this 10.2-inch touchscreen display, which isn't massive, but I think it's a pretty good size, and everything in this touchscreen is controlled by Google. That means you get Google Maps as your navigation system, which is pretty nice. You have access to the Google Play Store to download other apps, and you have Google Assistant, so you can ask her to adjust the cabin temperature or enter a destination into the navigation. However, she can't do things like turn on your heated or cooled seats, which I've seen happen before in a Volvo and a Polestar, since they both use a Google-based system, so it is possible. So check this out. Hey Google, turn on my heated seats.
Sorry, I can't control that in this car.
Yeah, she can do that in other cars, just not this car. You do get wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, so you're good there. Most people use that anyway. The other screen that you have in here is your digital gauge cluster display. It's pretty nice and informative, however, it doesn't have a full screen map view or anything like that. Nonetheless, it does play a really nice high country startup animation, so you're reminded every time that you get in here that you dropped over $90,000 on a Chevy. As for driver assist tech, it's a bit strange to me that Chevy doesn't offer everything as standard like most of its competitors do. So you'll have to pay extra for things like adaptive cruise control. Of course, I get that Super Cruise should be a little bit more expensive, and it will cost you an extra $2,500, which actually isn't that bad. But I feel like adaptive cruise control should have been there as standard along with the heads-up display. And the same goes for a 360 surround view camera. It is standard on the High Country, thank God, but on other trims, you will have to pay extra for it, which I think is kind of crazy since this thing is so big that it should just come standard with a 360 view camera. You definitely need it when parking this thing. Now, before we get into how this drives, let's quickly talk about the exterior design. Now, this thing is massive, a whole 18.8 feet long. That said, I really like the looks of the new Suburban and Tahoe. They have the perfect balance of looking tough and elegant at the same time. Now, of course, I think the Cadillac Escalade is the best looking large GM SUV, but this isn't bad at all. The High Country here gets some unique touches since it's the most expensive trim. You have a bronze accented grille that looks pretty sharp. You have some High Country badges right here on the hood. You get these massive and actually pretty nice looking 22-inch wheels. And then the High Country comes standard with running boards that deploy automatically, and they actually light up at night and look really cool. And then of course you get LED everything when it comes to the headlamps and the tail lamps because it is 2023. By the way, I really like the design of these headlamps. Those look really sharp. But yeah, I gotta say the Escalade is my favorite in terms of looks, followed by the Tahoe and the Bourbon, and then I'd go for the GMC Yukons. Alright, so let's finally get into how this drives. Now this thing is big, for sure, but after driving this around for a week, I actually didn't feel like I was driving a giant bus, which definitely was the case for the outgoing large GM SUVs because they used to rattle and bounce around a lot. The new generation of these large SUVs are much more composed. They don't bounce and toss around like they used to, and that's because GM got rid of the axle and leaf springs for an independent multi-link suspension with coil springs. And then depending on the trim or options that you go for, you get magnetic ride control and an adaptive air ride suspension that help cut back on the bouncing and the body roll. But yeah, both the Tahoe and the Suburban now ride much better and much smoother. You won't feel like you're driving an SUV that's based on a pickup truck. Now let's talk about power. The model that I'm testing here is powered by a 6.2-liter V8 making 420 horsepower. You also have the choice of going for a 355 horsepower 5.3-liter V8 on the lower trims, or you can go for a 3-liter turbo diesel that gives you 277 horsepower and a good amount of torque, but I still feel like it'll be really slow on a daily basis. That said, no matter which engine you go for, you get a 10-speed automatic transmission, and it is a very, very smooth shifting transmission. You don't feel the shifts at all. You've got a couple of drive modes that you're working with in here, including normal, sport, off-road, and tow and haul. And depending on what you're doing, you can select whatever you want. I've been driving this around mostly in normal and sport because I don't go off-road and I don't tow and haul. Pop it in sport mode, and that 6.2 liter V8 will come to life, and it will actually move this thing pretty quick. 0 to 60 will take you 6.1 seconds, which sounds slow, but is pretty impressive, seeing as the Suburban four-wheel drive here weighs over 6,000 pounds. The Tahoe, I believe, will do it in 5.7 seconds, so this is not that much slower than Tahoe. What's not impressive though is the fuel economy. The 6.2 liter V8 four-wheel drive High Country that I'm driving here gives you an EPA rated 14 miles per gallon city and 18 miles per gallon highway. I'm averaging, after a few days of driving, a total of 13 miles a gallon, which, yeah, is pretty crazy. And that sentence took a while for me to get out, but I finally got it out. That said, if you haven't driven a Tahoe or a Suburban in a while, definitely give them a second look because the ride quality has improved by a lot. This competes with the likes of the Toyota Sequoia, the Nissan Armada, the Ford Expedition, and I gotta say the Tahoe and the Suburban are one of the smoothest of this segment. That said, let's talk about pricing because this is actually the most expensive Chevy SUV that you can buy right now, like Cadillac Escalade expensive. The Suburban starts right under $57,000 for the base LS trim, which I would just skip over. I would personally start at the RST trim if you can afford it for around $65,000. And then if you end up going for the Premier or the High Country, you're in the 70s range touching 80s. The fully loaded High Country that I'm driving here gets a final price tag of, brace yourself, $91,665. Which, yeah, at this point, I would just go for a Cadillac Escalade or a GMC Yukon Denali or Denali Ultimate because over 92 grand is just too much money for a Chevy. Again, if I were to go for the Suburban, I would start at the RST trim and do my best to keep that price tag under $70,000 because only there does it make sense in my head to get this over the Escalade. Nonetheless, I gotta say, I have seen people driving around in a High Country Tahoe and a High Country Suburban, and I asked them why. Why not just get an Escalade? I'm guessing the Escalade really rubbed them the wrong way or something. But that said, I really enjoyed my week of driving this around. It is very convenient, very comfortable, very spacious, great for large families, but this High Country trim for $91,000 as loaded here is just a bit too much for my liking. Let me know if you would drop over 92 grand on a Chevy SUV. Either way, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you follow me on Instagram and on TikTok. My handle is @OmarDrives. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care. Peace. I've got like 286,000 followers on TikTok, and I would love to have the same on YouTube. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you share my channel with your friends that also enjoy cars, especially if you like my videos. If you find them valuable, then share it. If you don't, then, peace. You probably already left.